Just making sure I have the date and time right. Wednesday, September 24th, 8 a.m. Eastern. TikTok, yes. Here we are. Here we are. Like the Bee Gees would say. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? How's it going? Ooh, busy day ahead for me. Maybe for you too. Blonde Cheryl, nice to see you. Let me see what I got going on here. All right, I got that going on. I got this. It's like this and like that and like this, y'all. So, how goes it? I hope you're doing well. It is a foggy Wednesday morning here where I am on the eastern portion of the United States. We got some rain last night. And I'm fine with that because even though I had to put the tarp over the patio furniture, it was good for the grass and the trees and whatnot to get it. Okay, Foggy in the Berg. Okay, good to know. Yeah, we got some of the rain you were talking about. We didn't get it till later last night, but we did get it. So I was psyched that I actually looked ahead. So thank you for the heads up, Becky. I looked ahead and I was able to get the patio furniture covered and the cushions, not just covered, but put into the garage. So I felt good about that. So yay for kind of looking ahead and being prepared for what's going on. Thank you very much. So thank you. It's the middle of the week. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the last full week of September. Badia, certainly you remember. Badia, the last full week of December. September. So time is passing. Soon it's going to be October. It's going to be October, and to me, October is always the month of Halloween. November is the month of Thanksgiving, and December is the month of, for me, Christmas, for other people, other holidays. And then, OMFG, it's going to be New Year's. Now, I say this because time is passing. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. And yeah, this month was a blink. I think because it's also still kind of summery, you forget that it's really getting into September. You're welcome. Laura Gibbon Voorhees is saying, thank you for hosting the Pen Pal meet and greet last night. You're welcome. I'm happy to do it. For those of you who don't know, my name is Beth. I'm a decluttering life coach. And one of the things I do is I have an email group. Basically, it's kind of like my version of a mailing list, but I don't mail you a lot of stuff. It's more like a way to remain in contact. So when I have some good stuff to share, I can share it with the people who have told me they'll be interested in it. Now, recently what's happened is some people have reached out to me kind of separately saying, I would love a way to get together with other people on this list that also want to get together. So I invented this thing called the Pen Pal Club. It's kind of funny because it's the PPC, like the Pink Pony Club. The Pen Pal Club. And it's just people who are like, you know what, I struggle with clutter, but I don't want to feel alone. And we had our first kind of meeting last night, and so people could get to know each other. So I'm so glad you found it helpful. Yay. We may do some more in the future, but I'm going to just allow myself some time to let that kind of percolate and see what the members do to connect with each other. So I'm glad you had a good time. Erin, I think I saw you. I am drinking from my extra big mug today because I have a busy, jam-packed morning. And so let's get to it. So what is it that we're going to get to? Well, as I mentioned, I'm a decluttering life coach. I'm here to help you in many ways with your clutter. Amy, I think you might have texted that. I'm not sure. What I will offer is you might want to just read what you wrote. It doesn't really make sense to me. Anywho, decluttering. So decluttering is deciding. Decluttering is deciding what you want and what you don't want. And sometimes it's even just seeing what you have. The beginning of stages is kind of taking inventory. Seeing what you have and just asking yourself, just because I own this now, do I still need to keep it? Now, I know that decluttering and decision making can drain you. They all begin with D. It can, and it's like a gas tank in your car or a battery on your phone. When you use it, the battery decreases. There we go, Amy. Yes, happy to be at the Pen Pal Zoom. Close enough. Pen Pal Zoom last night. Yay, I'm glad you were there too. So, beginning stages of decluttering. I think the first thing is kind of noticing the effect that the quantity, the quality, the quantity of stuff you have in your house affects how you feel. The quality of stuff you have affects how you feel. Where that stuff is or isn't affects how you feel. And really, this is why I'm a decluttering life coach, because I want you to, I want to help you find ways to make yourself feel better in your home by, I don't want to necessarily say decreasing. Maybe you love all the stuff you have. Like you truly have said, yes, I truly want this. Then it's a matter of finding a home for it and matching that home to the home you have. You know, like for example, I would love to get like one of those cool groovy spaghetti lamps that hangs from the ceiling, but we have fairly low ceilings. We don't have like a dramatic foyer or something to do that with. So aligning your stuff with the situation you're in so that you feel good about where you are living and how you're living, and just you feel good. And I say this to you because many people think that decluttering is simply the surface stuff. And it was funny because this morning I got up early, it was still dark, so I was scrolling on my phone, as I do, and I saw somebody. Luckily, I don't remember who it was, but she was like being mean. She was being kind of, I would call it tough love. You don't need that many. Why do you have this? This has got to go. I bet you've used that tone with yourself. And maybe it works sometimes, but I think long term it doesn't. I get a little bit of resistance from that. Don't tell me what I want and don't want. Now, obviously, this person is trying to help you, but there are different ways of helping. I like to get curious about stuff. I like to just go slowly and, at a different pace. What is this? What is this? Oh, what's the story on it? What's the story, Morning Glory? Here's my thing. What is it? Oh, I've got a story attached to it. What is the story? I tell myself the story. That's the mug my sister gave me for my 14th birthday, something like that. Okay. Do I want to keep it? Do I want to keep this or not? And then the answer can be my decision. Yeah, see, here's the funny thing, Ashley. Ashley says, I would keep it forever if someone was mean and told me I don't need to, just to spite them, just in spite. Yeah, and the funny thing is about that, I think I've witnessed this enough in one-on-one clients that I've dealt with and worked with, is some of us still have that internal kind of rebellious kid that says, don't tell me what to do. This is my house. I get to do what I want to do. And yet, your house isn't looking and feeling like you want it to. It's like you're still showing somebody else that you don't have to clean your room unless you want to, that I can do anything I want, and yet still doing the things you that are the opposite of maybe how you grew up or somebody told you to do it, can still not have that effect. I think the key is really to do it because you want to do it and not because somebody else is forcing you or demanding or yelling at you to do it. That, I think, for me, is the sweet spot. Yeah, if somebody tells me to do something, that's why I even try to pay attention to the words I use. To not say, you know what you gotta do. Because part of me is like, I don't gotta do a damn thing, lady. Alrighty. So notice what you're doing, why you're doing it, when you're doing it. Now, I love this. Okay, Laura Gibbon Voorhees, I love that you are being aware of how you feel and the reason behind how you feel today. So Laura is saying, trying to rearrange my plans during our time here. I did not sleep well, so I'm going to postpone sentimental sorting. So a couple of things that come up when I do one-on-one coaching and I coach people here on Zoom, for free, is checking in with your physical body every day and throughout the day. Noticing how you feel physically will have a direct impact on what you do, how well you do it, how long you do it, how you feel when you're doing it. So please, everybody, how are you feeling this morning physically? do a scan from the crown on down, as I like to say, because I like a rhyme and using the word down. How you feeling? Now, I slept pretty well last night. I got up a couple of times to pee, but hello. I'm feeling okay, but there are days that I haven't slept well. I wake up with headaches sometimes. So having a plan is great, but being flexible with your plan, depending upon how you feel, can really make a difference, okay? So Laura is paying attention to how she feels, and even though she made a plan, she's not going to have to stick to it regardless, okay? And what I want to suggest too is the other thing that she's doing is a plan can be rearranged. And also, here's a thing about thinking about clutter in 3 layers of clutter, kind of like a layer cake, okay? You've got surface clutter on the surface, you've got stored clutter kind of in the middle, and then you've got sentimental clutter. Knowing that sentimental clutter is the deepest layer of clutter, it's the stuff that tells you the deep stories, the stories of who you were, who other people were, loss, happiness, times ago. Those are the ones that take a lot of energy, and if you're not feeling good to begin with, I just recommend, as Laura did, she's postponing the sentimental sorting. There's still 2 other layers you can totally continue to declutter on until you feel better and you feel stronger that you can walk into the sentimental decluttering. So yay, Laura, for doing all those things really well. Noticing you did not sleep well, so you're not feeling good. Rearranging your plans because of that, and knowing it's not good to do the tough stuff when you're not feeling well. Yay. Yeah. Now, sentimental can also be in storage. Now, sentimental in storage is one thing. There's also, when I say stored clutter, I mention the fact that it's really, to me, the stuff that's in kind of everyday use. Like I imagine the drawers in your kitchen and your bathroom and wherever you have a bureau or something, and doors of closets and cupboards, things like that. So kind of those everyday things, not the sentimental stuff, but the overflow, the abundance of things that you have. Okay? And, user 9448 is asking a really good question, and I want to give it some good thought and some answer. How do you encourage a hoarding person to get past indecision? Okay, now I'm being extra word sensitive on this one because I think there's some interesting things to think about. So encouraging, helping somebody get the courage to do something is going to be the opposite of discouraging, kind of taking their courage away. Now, one of the ways you can do that is by letting them know, not being judgmental, going at a pace that works for them, letting them, even just planting the seed that there is help out there, that you can help them. Also, frankly, if you have somebody who truly is a hoarder that would be diagnosed and come up, yes, hoarder, on the DSM-5 Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, there are more deep help people for people who are true hoarders, because true hoarding is a mental health diagnosis, and there are people that are licensed and trained to do that. So there is help out there for hoarders and just clutterers, okay? But the interesting thing is really, you can't really detour around decision. Notice how, and I know that the words we use, we don't realize how they sound, but I just offer to you, you can't really get past indecision. You have to kind of go through the decision-making process. And decision-making can be scary for some people. It can take a while. It may bring up feelings and stories and emotions and discomfort. So I offer to you, be there for the person. Let them know that there's help available. Don't shame them. Don't judge them. Don't make them embarrassed. Don't yell at them. Don't try to do the tough love thing. All of those things will make it much harder for them to accept or even admit they need help. Okay? So show up with your person and just say, hey, I did this with my mother. Now, my mother is not a hoarder, but she has had a lot of things for a lot of years. And for years and years, She would say, no, I don't need help. No, I don't need help. I'm good. Literally when she turned 80 years old. 80 years old, people. And I had been around most of her life. And I had always offered to help with her clutter, she and my dad. No, 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 no. Until 80 years old, she said, yes, I could use some help. So be patient. Just leave the offer on the table, walk away, and let them know you're doing it from a place of love and not judgment. Okay? I hope that. Alrighty. So T-site, I love it. On the road, I have very organized, but I've collected a few sticks and sea glass. I love that. Have a great day. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and I think most people, at least most people that I know and that I work with in decluttering coaching, Julie Knox Realtor says, yes, that is hard making the decisions to let go of sentimental stuff. Yeah, it is until you realize why you're doing it. One of the things that decluttering coaching helps you with, one of the things I want to help you with right now is realizing that if you are thinking it's a bad thing to do it, you're going to feel bad about doing it. But if you can create kind of another reality, another scenario where letting go of this can actually be something really good, suddenly you can feel good about letting go of sentimental stuff. It can really be a change of perspective. How can it, if I think it's going to be hard, it's going to be hard. If I think it's going to be helpful to me and to somebody else, it might be easier. Okay? Now, Lulu is saying, I got rid of almost all Tupperware and I feel so free. Not really a top of list things to do, but you know what it is? I mean, think about Tupperware. It's all floating around on the surface, but it can feel really good to clear out the things that don't work, the missing lids, the missing things, the things that are mismatched, the things that don't easily, stack, the things that have gotten kind of grungy when you put tomato sauce on them. So that to me is the quality of what you have, because you want it to be clean. You want it to have a matching lid. The quantity of it, the right amount that fits in the shelf that you have, not too few, so you're always struggling to find something to put it in, but something, the stuff that fits just in the space you want. So that can feel good. Do not diss. Anytime you do any kind of decluttering, really lean into how good it feels. This is a good antidote to probably everybody. We've all grown up with decluttering and cleaning and organizing as having like a bad reputation. Yeah. It can feel so good to finally let it go, especially, see, here's the thing. If it feels good to let it go, it didn't feel good to hold on to it. So right now, if you know it would feel good to let go of it, this is why there's tension. This is why there is tension in the letting go of items, okay? Because a part of you says, I should hold on to this. However, like tug of war, another part of you says, yeah, but it would feel so good to let it go. But then this one says, no, you got to keep it. And so it's a tug of war. And think about that tension, that back and forth, that limbo of not feeling good about either decision. And so you're stuck in limbo. That can be exhausting. So there are sentimental items that if you imagine the scenario of letting it go, you're like, no, I really, truly like this item. I truly want to keep this item. And you feel good about keeping it, and you find a good home for it in your home. The other thing is, if figuring out the story that is stuck to the thing, like here's the thing you're struggling with. What is the story? And this story equals you feeling like you can't let go of it. But there is a way to let go of stuff just by realizing how much better you will feel when you don't have it. Seriously, how much easier it is to live a life with fewer objects to take care of, fewer objects to dust, to move, to make sure that they don't get broken, to decide what that happens with them when you're gone. Fewer items equals fewer decisions equals a lighter life. That being said, as you can see from my background, I am not a minimalist, but getting that right amount, right? Yeah. Now, yes, Becky R, 100%, just spent 20 minutes trying on jeans. Some are out of style or don't fit this menopausal body. Yeah, the jeans may not have changed, but guess what has? Two things, styles and our bodies. Trying on what you have, realize, ooh, this fits me differently. And then that may make the decision easier to let it go. Now, Dawn and user 972 are bringing up two really good points, which I think are bigger than anybody ever realizes. And this is why I'm a decluttering life coach, so we can go kind of deeper. Dawn says, I grew up where don't waste and what if we need it later? Right next to it, raised by a depression-era mom, says user 972, so I feel guilty getting rid of anything because we might need it. Yes. Yeah. How many of us were brought up by people who didn't have a lot, who were maybe brought up with people who didn't have a lot, that maybe didn't even have enough and they really scrambled? Do not underestimate the power of that generational fear of not having enough. And that is passed down to you in stories, in observing and watching their reactions to things, in how you grew up and saw what people did. Because and here's the funny thing, right? What if we might need it? Yes. And so this is what I say right now. I get where they were coming from. And truly, if you go back about 100 years or so, you've got the Great Depression. You've got people coming over on immigrant boats. I'll just speak about my people, coming over from Ireland and different countries and not having a lot. So really being mindful about what they had, because if they didn't have it, they had nothing. We have those thoughts in our head to this day because we were raised with them. But if you look around, our issue of our generation is not that we don't have enough. We are actually on the other side of that spectrum. We have too much, and we're realizing that too much can also feel crappy. And so look around. When you say, what if I might need it? Okay, let's continue that scenario. Okay, so pick an item. Everybody here, I don't care what it is, mentally pick an item that brings to mind that I don't really use it, but what if I need it someday? And I offer to you, what if I needed it and didn't have it? What would I do? What would I do if I didn't have it? Okay, curtains, clothes. So let me ask you this, Deborah Smith, do you have curtains on every window in your house? Okay, you probably do. How long will the curtains you have last? Decades. So notice that. I already have enough. Notice that feeling of enough. I have enough curtains for every single window in my house. These curtains can last 30 years or more. So notice where there is like a crossed wire in my brain and in my head and my heart, basically, that is causing me to hang on to something that is over the amount that I technically need. And that may come from that fear of not having something. The other thing is too, and again, I don't know everybody's financial situation, but if you're watching me on TikTok right now, it means you have internet, it means you have something to watch on, and it's 8:24 in the morning where I am, you have flexibility in your schedule that you're doing that. I bet if push came to shove and you really needed other curtains in the future 30 years from now, you could find a way to get some curtains. But notice how we have to kind of talk ourselves through this. Same thing with bedding, Lake Life Lady. I have enough. I have enough for the beds I have and another set or two for if we had people over on the arrow bed or the pull-out couch. I do not need anything more than that because I am notice the thing that comes to your mind is already the thing that part of you knows that you have an overabundance of, too much. Okay? Same thing with clothing. I bet you're not walking around naked when you're doing the laundry, so it must mean you have enough to keep on your body and do some laundry. But again, I know a lot of it isn't up here. Like up here is rational. So we recognize the rational brain, but man, do we talk to the feeling part of you, your nervous system, the stories that whisper in your ear that have been told. You know, even the one in the hand is worth better than two in the bush. Okay, so first of all, who wants things in a bush? You know, it's really interesting to me the power a repeated phrase can have, even when it might make no sense. And we live in a different time. We live in a time of abundance. 100 years ago, somebody could not hit a button on a computer and get something delivered to their home later that day. We live in a different time. So even if you did donate those curtains and you found out you needed some because you washed them and the ones and they all turned to shreds, you could more easily replace what you have with something not expensive and easy to obtain. And I just offer this, okay? I offer this whole process to you, to everybody here. Because if you're listening to me, I'm a decluttering life coach. I live in this environment. This is all I speak about. And knowing or learning maybe for the first time that you've got somebody else's story, perhaps, in your head. Somebody else who grew up with not a lot, who grew up with frost on the inside of the windows, who had to share a bed with her sisters, or, you know, the brothers stayed in the same, you know, one bedroom and all the girls were in whatever. Those, when they're repeated to you, you absorb them like they're your own. I offer to you, notice that and kind of say, okay, but hear me in 2025. What kind of life do I want to live? Because right now, saving all this stuff like I was told I was supposed to isn't making me feel good. Okay? So Donna is asking, what's the best way to start and continue to make progress? My clutter is due to grief and depression. I will say, work with your grief and depression. Start there. If you try to ignore your grief and ignore your depression and just white knuckle it, going through your stuff is not going to feel good. It's going to feel difficult. And you may regret some of the decisions you make. You also may dig yourself in deeper because you may not be able to make decisions, and then you're going to be mad at yourself for not doing that. So much like we said, how do you avoid decision making? How do you get over decision making? Kind of going through it. And the good thing is, Donna, about that, I think about this. You could pretend that it doesn't exist. Like, let's pretend, just for sake of metaphor, that grief and depression wasn't something inside you, but it was like a cut, a deep cut on your arm, right? So you could pretend it doesn't exist and put a Band-Aid over it and try to do stuff. But if you don't clean it out and let it dry and pay attention to it and let it heal, it's going to still be underneath that surface and probably getting worse and affecting you. You could get you could get worse. You could get a, like an infection or something. So you can ignore it, but the cut's still going to be there. Help dealing with your mental health, noticing what is influencing your decisions and how you move through the world, and starting there. Okay? Starting there. Alrighty. Now this is fun. This is what some people do sometimes when I do a decluttering, a Destination Decluttered TikTok live. Some people say, I'm going to use this time that she's on a live and I'm going to do some decluttering right now. Right? Julie Knox Realtor says, I'm getting 2 garbage bags right now. I'm going to put my clothes on the bed and donate 2 bags. Okay, Julie Knox, let me offer something from my personal and professional experience that's going to help you. Please, and this is for everybody too, whenever you decide and you're a bit energetic about doing decluttering, please do not empty out everything onto a surface. Okay? When you said putting my clothes on the bed, here's what I suggest instead, because this surge of energy will not last. I suggest chunking it down. What does that mean? It means not bringing out all your clothes, but picking a chunk. Yes, it creates another big mess that is overwhelming. So true. Okay. So Julie Knox. Okay. I'm glad I caught you before you started just shoving all your clothes on the bed, right? Categories categories are going to be your saving grace. Categories equals chunks. What do I mean by categories? Is going through your clothes and instead of pulling out all of them, just throwing some of the stuff on the bed that you are pretty sure you definitely don't want. Like clothing you definitely don't want. And starting in one place, not your drawers and your closet. Do you want to, Julie, do you want to start in like your dresser, your bureau, or are you starting in your closet? Which place would you, out of those two, where do you want to chunk down where your clothes are to start? Put it in the comments and then we can walk through that. A lot of what we do while Julie's doing that is notice how earlier we talked with Laura Voorhees. She noticed how she felt physically. She didn't feel well. She was changing her plan. Notice right now, the next level down is going to be how you feel about things, the story you tell yourself, and how that story makes you feel. So calming down the nervous system, quieting down the scared backseat driver to get started. But then the third one is always going to be to chunk things down, to not start all big and gung-ho, but to start small. Okay, so thank you. My dresser drawers, I shoved tops in there. Okay, so here's another thing too. So notice that we went from like the room that Julie had her clothes in. Then we chunked it down to either her bureau or her dresser or her closet. And she says her dresser. So that's chunking it down from room, smaller chunk, to dresser. I'm going to go one level deeper. Julie Knox, instead of dresser drawers, I suggest opening one drawer. Now, I don't know, like I have a bureau that has like, I say bureau because I'm from New England, that has 6 drawers in it. And I have different things in each drawers. Julie Knox, I would start with one drawer, and one drawer that you know you have shoved tops in there. Notice the difference between pitching everything on the bed and making decisions to opening one drawer and pulling those things out. Okay? And then the categories are going to be, for the most part, things I definitely know I want to keep. Things I wear, I look good in, I dig these. Like there's no question. Those are the things I wear. Then you can probably easily find ones that you can easily let go of. And then you're going to find, this is like the color coded. So think about the color coding. And I use the road trip metaphor a lot in driving. Think of the color coding of a traffic signal. You've got green, which is the stuff, hell yeah, I love that. You've got the red, which is hell yuck, I don't like it. And then you've got yellow. Okay? So how about that, Julie Knox? See if this works. Experiment with what I'm offering you as a method, as a system to go through this. Open up that one drawer, and then you've got a surface to work on. And then each time you pull a top out, just put it, 12 pops, okay, 12 tops in there. Experiment with those 3 piles, okay? Yeah, experiment with those 3 piles, okay? Donna is asking, are there tips on how to handle the yellow zone? Of course there is, my dear. I wouldn't be here doing TikTok lives and YouTube lives every day and doing one-on-one coaching for years and years if I didn't have an answer for that. Okay, so notice Jennifer with 1 N. Oh my gosh, the anxiety, just thinking about that. Okay, notice. She's got something in her head. She is thinking about it, and that's causing her body, her nervous system, to get triggered into anxiety. So Jennifer, this is why we say, notice how your physical body feels, but also recognize how your nervous system feels. And if you are feeling anxious, don't move forward with the decluttering. Don't do nothing. What you do then is you calm down your nervous system. You quiet down. You turn down the volume on whatever that thought is. You recognize it's just a thought about decluttering, but notice how even thinking about it can trigger a visceral response in your body. Okay? And so I say this to you because you can't, if you ignore these 2 steps, the physical and the nervous system, if you try to bypass those, it will just be a lot more difficult. Okay? So, Uvia de Coloris is saying, is it normal? I don't want other people helping me declutter. I don't care what normal is. I'm not normal myself. What I will offer is it's normal for you to not want other people to help you. So that's totally legit. The neat thing is, decluttering is decision making. And it really should be, I am making the decision about what I want to keep and what I want to let go of. I don't need your opinion. I want to get in touch with what I want, not what you think I should want or let go of. The one way you could have people, however, the decision making is completely yours. So, right, see, that works for you. However, there are many other opportunities where other people can help you declutter. And if people want to help you, think of them doing it from a place of love. I show up and I do one-on-one coaching. I do these lives on TikTok, and at 9 o'clock I'm doing one on YouTube. Okay? This is how I help. But what I will offer is the people that you like who want to help, pawn off some of the parts you don't want to do. Okay, I've made a pile of the clothes I don't want. Can you put them in a bag and put that bag in your car and take that to the donation place? You can still use people's help, but just not in the decision making. Okay? Now, Donna, on the other hand, is saying, my daughter is helpful. When I can't decide on something, she asks if it serves a purpose. And really, Donna, yeah, if I say no, but it's hard to get rid of, she does it and I feel better. So sometimes people do want that encouragement. I have helped my mother with that type of stuff. Sometimes I might say to my husband, do we need this? I don't know. Like, it doesn't have to be an absolute thing. There can totally be some flexibility. Notice what works for you, what makes the process easier for you, and do that. But you've got to experiment with things to find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. But at least what I offer you, yeah. And see, you got to watch it, because Lulu's daughter says, you can't get rid of that. You know? Jennifer says, are you a psychologist as well? Nope. I have no interest in being a psychologist. I grew up around mental health professionals and people. My mother has her PhD in psychology. What I am is I'm a certified life coach. And the thing I love about this is that I can play around and have fun with these metaphors and still help you with your stuff. Okay? See, here's a really cool thing. Julie Knox is using this real time. Julie says that worked. Excellent. Thank you, Beth. So what did we do? We had her chunk it down and make some decisions. She thought the way to do it was to dump everything on the bed. We said, no, go small. And so she says that worked. I love that you said one drawer. I chose 3 tops to donate. Yes, and I bet because you have 3 fewer tops in that thing, you feel better about the quality and quantity of the tops that are in that drawer. And you probably won't shove them in there because there will be more room for you to then fold them and put them away. Okay? So everybody's a little bit different with the questions and the help, things like that. Everybody here is wired a different way. Yeah, and Donna says it's important if you get help that they are not judgmental. Yes, so notice, who was it up here? Lulu's daughter? Yeah, a little bit judgy. You can't get rid of that. I'm going to judge you if you get rid of that. So notice she has her own stories about what feels okay to let go of and what to hang on to. You know? Now, Abbott Elementary says, I love the self-question, can I live without this? How am I supposed to live without you? I doubt if I was a psychologist, they'd allow me to burst into random songs that I heard on the radio growing up, right? Right. So Lulu, if you listen to your daughter and you try to make her happy, you always end up keeping too much. And notice that feeling of too much is something you don't want, you know? Now, Mama D says, what do you think? What do I think? What do you think about saying, I'm only keeping what I can't live without? Try it. See if it works. Now, to me, there's some wiggle room. Like, I like to be kind of snarky. I have a Snarkosaurus Rex in my back seat, you know, who's like, yeah, I could live without it, but I don't want to. So play with that. See if it works for you, Mama D. You know? I love it. Jackie says, haha, I'm a therapist, and please do break out into song at any time. That's why I've got my Mr. Microphone. Hey, little lady, we'll be back to pick you up later. I'm on the radio. I love it. Jingle bells, jingle bells. Remember that, Ronco? I watched a lot of TV as a kid. I was a Gen Xer, what can I say? Still am. Donna says, the hardest thing for me is the emotional attachment to things that were my parents. Yep, Donna, everybody, and I don't mean this to dismiss you. I mean this to include you in a larger group of people. The layer, the category, if you will, of clutter that most everybody has the hardest time with is sentimental clutter. You've got surface clutter, you've got stored clutter, and you've got sentimental clutter. Everybody here could probably divide up everything in their house as surface, superficial. You know, it's more like stuff cluttering up the area. Stored stuff usually means you've got too much of certain things. Sentimental is the stuff that tells you stories. The hardest thing for Donna is that part. The hardest thing for a lot of people is that. So what I offer you, Donna, is then knowing that, don't start at that point. Don't jump into the deep end of the pool if you don't know how to swim. Let's start at the shallow end. Okay? Like mail, for example, says Jennifer. Mail. Mail is something that legit is usually on the surface. You bring it in from the mailbox and you put it on a counter or a desk or some surface. Okay, so let's start in the shallow end, the surface area of mail. There's still some depth into it. Yeah. Now, so what I offer with mail is, Jennifer, notice that there might be a fear of opening your mail. Okay? A fear. Fear is behind a lot of what we hold on to as well. The fear of forgetting somebody, the fear of finding out some information that may not be good, the fear of admitting you don't know how to do something. So there's fear involved with a lot of this, okay? Notice that you may not have a good process for your mail. Lulu is mentioning fear of mail is real, and Lulu says, my problem falls into, but I love this for everything. Otherwise, why would I have bought it? Oh, honey. We buy things for a myriad of reasons. Not just because you love it. You know, do I love these tea bags? No, I like them. They use them. So there is something else. There could be another reason why you bought it. To make yourself feel better in the moment. You bought it because you thought it might work and now it doesn't. You bought it for an occasion that happened and now the occasion is over. Okay? Yeah. So just notice that. Impulse buys. Yeah. Notice the impulse and ask yourself, what am I trying to make me feel better about? Okay? So fear of mail, let's get into that. Okay? So here's the interesting thing about mail and fear of mail. What I like to say about a lot of paper clutter is paper is proof. Paper is proof of something that happened in the past, for the most part. Okay? The fear of mail, you're afraid you're going to open up an envelope and get news you don't want to hear. Okay? However, if you ignore it, it will make the news worse. If you are afraid to open up your credit card statement because you did a lot of shopping and you don't want to see that big number right there, if you keep it in the envelope, you may not know how much money you owe to the credit card company. You may not know when they need their money by. You may not pay them. Then you get smacked with like interest and stuff. Okay? What I say is knowing what the news is makes you in a position of power to better deal with it than putting your head in the sand. Okay? So anybody who has fear of mail, even start this. Practice simply opening the email, opening the envelopes, and decluttering the part of the mail that doesn't matter. Put the empty envelope in the recycle bin, and any of that, if they ever have any of those extra pages or like marketing materials, put all of that stuff in the recycle bin. Notice what the news is. Sometimes it's not even something bad. It could be something good. I have coached people who have been afraid to open up envelopes, and they've opened up an envelope from the mail. It's been a check that they could have put in the mail. Okay? So, I offer to you If you avoid it, you're still going to be afraid of something that you may not need to be afraid of. Okay? Alrighty, Laura Gibbon Voorhees is up out of bed. She ate her breakfast for her good body. I did that too. Sitting in the piano room with my tea and visually scanning the room. I love it. Yeah. Deciding what spots look too busy and triggering my brain. When I feel better, I will simplify stuff. And Laura Gibbon Voorhees, one of the things that might help you is when you're sitting there with your teacup and scanning, also be there taking notes. Say, yeah, I want to work on, when I feel better, I will work on this area and that area. So when you feel better, you have a list to kind of start with. Okay? That could be helpful. Yeah, Anita, right here, says, yeah, that was me. $450. You know? Alrighty. Julie Knox says, okay. I folded the shirts and can see them all now. Doing my next drawer. Thank you so much. You're welcome. And thank you for being flexible enough to experiment with this process. Notice, Julie Knox just made herself feel better by doing something different than she was planning on doing. You can do the same thing. Yes, go in and get a notepad. I love it. Laura Gibbon Voorhees. Okay. Mary is asking, how do I mentally get unstuck? Calming down your nervous system. Noticing the story that you tell yourself, the words in your head that are causing you to feel stuck. It could be just, I'm exhausted, I didn't sleep well last night. It could be physically stuck and I have no physical energy. A lot of stuck tends to be mental. Yeah, and you said mentally get unstuck. Mental. Okay, so think about it. Your brain. Your brain has words in it. Your brain has words in it. And a combination of those words is causing a feeling of stuckness in your body, in your nervous system. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to listen. What is that phrase that pays? What am I telling myself? What words in my head are causing me this stuck feeling? And you sit down, you quiet down, you listen. And whatever you say, whatever comes up, write it down. This is going to take forever. I've never been good at this. This is not fun. Why do I have to clean up after everybody? Whatever it is, write it down, and you now have mentally revealed words that cause you to get stuck. Pretty cool, huh? Now, that's all well and good. Yeah, now what? Well, have a conversation with yourself. If you know those words make you feel stuck, even just play opposites. What's the opposite? This is going to take forever. Let's not make sure this takes forever. Let's only do this for like 20 minutes, but at least let's do 20 minutes. Can we do 20 minutes? Yeah, we can do 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes, we can do something else. Have a conversation with yourself. Now, this is where I like to frame this as, I like the visual, so I will share this visual with you. I used to write a lot about road trips and road tripping and driving and a lot of stuff. What would I do if I was in the car? Okay, I am in the driver's side seat, and part of me wants to drive ahead. But I'm not driving ahead because I've got two passengers with me. There's a crabby, scared kid in the back seat who's making me feel stuck. But there's also somebody next to me in the passenger seat called my co-pilot, who's there to encourage me. And the way to get unstuck is to begin a conversation between your backseat driver of fear and your co-pilot, who's love. Okay? Okay, and Anita says, but it is my mental illness stopping me. It never ends. Then get help with your mental illness, Anita. Seriously. Yeah. And if your brain is wired that way, do the things that you're able to do to work with your brain. And know that that may be how your brain is for the rest of your life. But there are ways that you can also recognize how you do things and create systems and processes for working with your brain as opposed to saying, I'm going to fix it and then I'll be better. Okay? Okay, there's ways you can do. Yeah. Now, Anita says also, my daughter literally has nightmares that I will die and she will be responsible for all this clutter. Okay. If she's afraid of it now, how about See if you can get her to help. All right. Now, as we can all notice, there is different layers of how deep the issues with clutter runs. If they get so deep that it is your mental health, go to the expert that can do that the best. And if what you've been doing for 20 years isn't working, find another, go start looking for another way. Yeah. And see, notice Donna says, I don't want to do that to my kids. My mom did that to us and it took 6 months to go through it all. And yet here you are with clutter. So don't underestimate the power of how we got brought up. You don't want to do it to your kids. And yet your mom didn't know how to deal with clutter. Your mom didn't know how to deal with clutter. So is it any surprise you don't know how? How can you teach a kid something you don't know yourself? Right. You didn't want to come this way, right? You didn't want to become this way. But the person who would have taught you another way didn't know it herself. Yeah, so I say this, the more you can see the bigger picture and get some perspective on how you got here, the more you can understand that it wasn't really your fault. It was just the way you were brought up, and you can still learn to do things a different way. That's why I show up, and I typically am coaching a lot of women in their kind of pre-post menopause, in the menopausal years. Because you're never too late to learn something new. Just up thread, Julie Knox Realtor learned how to chunk things down and to open up one drawer and to make decisions. And she decreased the percentage of her tank tops by I can't do the math, 20%. Just by doing that one thing. There are skills you were not taught when you were growing up. Skills of how to regulate your nervous system. Skills of how to write things down. Skills of how to think about things deeply. Skills of feeling feelings. A lot of these things were things we were not taught growing up, and we didn't know it. Until now, we see how these things appear in our lives. Yeah. Now, Laura says, my mom and dad did not know how to teach me about how to tidy and declutter. Yeah, neither did mine. Neither did mine. And so I lived in a cluttered home. The cool thing is, I realized I didn't want to live like that. And kind of on the streets, people, I ended up working at jobs just out of college and even during college, where I had to be adhering to a schedule and tidying up the store every night before you went home. And that there was a place for everything. So I learned a lot of the skills that translate into a less cluttered home. I learned a lot of the surface stuff outside of my family home during jobs. However, it has only been literally within the last 10 to 15 years that I realized that there were those deeper family stories that caused me to have a house that looked good on the surface, but God forbid you go down the basement. It looks great at Christmas, but don't open the door to that room. This used to be that room. Okay? Yeah. And a lot of us also deal with and have had ADHD. Have ways that our brains are wired with mental health. Yep. And speaking of ADHD and mental health and nervous systems, Heather is asking tips to help regulate your nervous system. I like to use the word down a lot. Okay? And I like to use the word down because it's if I'm all I gotta remember is down. Okay? So Heather, what I would say is this. Put your hands in the air, wave them around like you just don't care. But then move your hands down as you breathe down to the bottom of your lungs. Maybe as you do this, you close your eyes down. And maybe as you do this, you soften down your muscles. Now, this is your physical body, but it's your nervous system too. Telling your body it's okay to relax. You don't have to be all tensed up and ready for fear type of thing. As you move your hands down slowly, you breathe down, you slow down your breath, you quiet down maybe the way you talk. Maybe you quiet down your environment. You shut off a few lights. You turn down the volume on anything that's bugging you. You relax your muscles. You breathe deeply and you tell yourself there's nothing to be afraid of here. It's just stuff. There's nothing wrong with me. I can do this. Okay? So this is what we do. And you have to, in order to, my belief, if you try to skip over getting your nervous system involved, it's probably what you've been doing a lot if you haven't been taking it into it. Okay? So calming down, slowing down, breathing down, putting your feet down on the ground, putting your butt down on a chair, putting your arms down, your shoulders down, relaxing down your muscles, putting your hand down on your heart, breathing in, maybe even petting yourself down like you would if there was a kitty or a dog or a little kid who was all anxious. You go, shh, it's okay. Nothing to be scared of. Pet down the hairs, your fur. Calm yourself down. Self-soothe. When you feel better, when you do that, it shifts your brain from being in the part that's lit up for fear and flight and all that, freeze, fawn, all of that fear-based stuff. And when you get out of that, it can feel good. And then your body, your brain can blossom open into the part where it's problem solving and connection. And I can do that. All right? So I hope that helps you notice the connection between your nervous system and how you even approach decluttering. Okay? Now, even Doug, look at the fact that you're using capital letters and a bunch of exclamation points in the help. Notice that is a verbal way in which you're probably communicating to me the urgency you feel. The fact that your nervous system is probably like a zigzag up here. What I offer to you and to everybody here, and do this on a daily basis, notice when your anxiety, when you start to feel the feeling of anxiety, where do you feel it? If you feel tight here, can you loosen that up? If you get all hunched over, can you consciously relax those things? If your belly is feeling awful, maybe you give it a hug and then you pet it and you release it. There are things you can do today, every day, to get out of that anxiety and into a better frame of mind and body and thought to change the stuff you don't want. Okay? So I offer that. How do you motivate yourself to start, Donna? Well, I've only got 2 minutes, so just really quick before I answer that. I'm Beth. I'm a decluttering life coach. I do TikTok lives pretty much every day. There's a schedule for them. The schedule is only available for people who are part of my email group, but you can be part of the email group. It's free. It's not a big deal. Go to my website, destinationdecluttered.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage, put your email address in, join the club, you're in. Okay? That's how you learn when I'm going live and when I'm not going live, so you don't look for me and I'm just not there. The other thing is, too, in about 2 minutes, I'm going to be doing this exact same thing, but on a different channel. We're going to be on YouTube doing the same thing, okay? So what I would say, Donna, I will answer the question of how do you motivate yourself to start over on YouTube, Destination Decluttered on YouTube, okay? The thing I want to offer to you, too, is all of these TikTok lives and YouTube lives that I do are recorded, and they are uploaded to Destination Decluttered on YouTube. There's like 800 of them or so. So there is a wealth of resources available to you, okay? But I'm going to sign off TikTok right now. I welcome everybody to the email group. Please join me over on YouTube. We'll be there for another hour if you like what you're hearing. And consider joining the email group. Did I already say that? I think I did, okay? But you got this. Calm down your nervous system. You can do this, all right? I'm going to shut it off now. Awesome to meet you guys.